My name's Jacob Restituto, and I have the pleasure of having Peerless Recordings here on the channel today. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on here, man. Really
It's
appreciate
my
it.
pleasure. It's my pleasure. So, for the people that are not familiar with you and your channel, can you give a little bit of a backstory?
My channel started a little bit, probably a year and 4 or 5 months ago. My son, I honestly knew nothing about reacting or anything like that. My son came to me and he said, "Dad, there's this really cool song that Dax did. It's called Dear God." He's like, "I just want to get your perspective on it. Can you go down and do a reaction video?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean, just go down and do a reaction video?" So, long story short, it just kind of went from there. I did my first video and it got some good. I mean, it's not like a lot of views, but I mean, it got a good reaction because of my education. Like I have a teaching, I'm a teacher, so I did teacher reacts to whatever. So I never did it before, and it kind of punched me in the face a little bit on how cool it is to interpret someone else's lyrics and music and then share your experience and then hear feedback from people about it. So that's kind of
Yeah,
how it started.
that's an interesting comment on the last part. I want to ask a question about the teacher part, but I want to comment on the last thing you said. Like, hear other people's comments on your comments is a very interesting uh, part of the whole, doing a reaction style video. Is like, first of all, the artist releases their stuff, then you interpret their video or song or lyrics however you think it feels, and
Mhm.
then they kind of interpret your interpretation, and then they kind of comment on that. It's a very interesting cycle how it goes. So that's a fascinating comment you said. So what do you teach though? I actually didn't realize you were a teacher.
Yeah, I teach alternative education. So basically, it's for kids that are in danger of dropping out of school. It's a very, very unique program that I started 20 some years ago, that's had a lot of accolades, but I try to just keep it low and be humble because that's what yeah, when you feel like you're supposed to be doing something.
Sure,
That's,
absolutely.
that's one of those things that I felt completely directed, or however you want to say it, led, or my heart went that way to start. And that and music are the two things for me that I feel like that's what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to be doing, I guess.
Yeah, very cool. That's amazing actually. How long have you been doing that for?
24 years.
Wow, very cool. Full time still?
Yeah, yep.
Wow. And you
Yep.
still find the time to do YouTube videos and then make your own music and stuff. And
Yeah. I've been trying to honestly gravitate more towards my music lately because that to me has more of significance as far as who I am and what I feel like my life is supposed to represent. So that's kind of where I'm gravitating towards. The YouTube reactions are cool and everything, but it gets to a point where I know you're well aware of the editing becomes a full-time job, and the expectations, people want you to make these funny faces when you're doing thumbnails and all this kind of clickbait stuff. But for me, when it gets into too much of that, it just is not it's not something I like to do when I get into all that. It's more like I want to have a song that I really want to dig into and really just give my thoughts on, or even if it's not a song, maybe it's one time I did a thing called I Sued the School System, and basically was centered around, the need for education to kind of move to where we're at now instead of being very traditional and sometimes useless.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's kind of cool. Just using, like you said, like using it as a platform rather than,
Right.
just a single thing. Whatever you feel is best to talk about at the moment,
Yep.
you end up talking about, which is pretty wild. Now, in some of the videos that I've seen of yours, you show some of your studio. You have a sick studio, man.
Oh,
I
thanks.
really, it's a really cool, setup you have, and if people want to check out your channel, which by the way, there are links to your Instagram and your YouTube channel in the description if people want to go check that out. You could check out some of the stuff. You got some pretty sweet gear. So, how long have you been Like, what's your recording process, and like, how long have you been recording? Do you record just yourself or
No,
other
I
artists?
do. No, I record other people too. Now, because of COVID and all that stuff, it kind of geared towards internet-based stuff, which honestly, I'm a little more. I like to do that more because you can bridge the gap between a lot of people. Just if distance is an issue, and it's not somebody coming into your establishment or whatever to do it. It just makes it a little easier of a process. Um,
Mm-hmm.
some senses, just from a time, it's like texting versus calling. If I text you, you could get back to me at your convenience. If I call you, you got to pick up right now and you got to stop with, it's that kind of thing. So, um, I've been doing recording. Honestly, it's funny because I was in bands and stuff for a while, and it just kind of petered out. We did some really good stuff and made some really good music, but I always felt like the process of my songwriting was not, it never not that songs came out bad, they just never came out the way that I intended them to come out.
Hmm.
Because when you get a ton of people with creative influence together, I can't tell you, hey Jacob, I need you to play this lick on this guitar exactly this way, and I need you,
Yeah.
and then you're looking at me like, that's what MIDI's for. Like, I'm not that. So basically, it just, long story short, I just got into the point where it's like every time I had to play out, it was like, hey Jacob, could you play the guitar for me, because I want to go play this acoustic setting, and I'm
Hmm.
not really good at the acoustic guitar. Then I said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So I got into self-teaching myself how to play stuff, and um, I just got into like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm also going to learn how to record and produce and mix and all that stuff, because the studio bills when you go elsewhere, especially as a band, can just pile up real quick. So probably 10, 11 years I've been doing it, um, on my own, and it's all been self-taught. I've connected with some people to get some ideas and thoughts and all that stuff, but pretty much been on my own for 10 or 11 years.
Very cool. I actually very much relate to that. That similar concept of why I, record everything myself and do everything on my own. It's like you said, the studio bills rack up, and that's why I couldn't afford it when I first started making music. There was no way that I could, spend a couple $100, a couple $1,000, depending on what you're doing, on a single song. When I come from the mentality of like I want to release a lot of music, so like if I was paying regular studio fees, man, I'd be racking up tens of 20 or 30, 40, $50,000 on music. And if that's not coming back in, then it's a serious investment that you're shelving out. So I completely agree. I learned how to record my own stuff, and it's definitely doable, man. I learned so much stuff on YouTube. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, especially connecting with other people too who do it. Just tips and tricks for me is like, I'm always trying to advance people and help when I can. And if it comes back, it comes back. But I feel like it's about being a community.
Hmm.
It's like when you make music, like I never heard your music before until I caught onto your channel, and then I went and I took upon myself to listen to the music, and I'm like, oh, I love your style. I love what you
Well, thank
do.
you.
I love the I don't know if it's the message or whatever, just the positivity of what you're doing. I relate and connect with your music. So for me, if you never put that out there because you were worried about, oh, I don't have the money for a studio, or I don't have the money
Mm,
for this, that, I would have never gotten to experience your music. Now, anybody can critique someone's mixing and production and way they do stuff and why would it do, but I don't do that. I look at like it's an art. I mean, I look at like, do you know NF? Are you
mm-hmm.
familiar?
Absolutely.
I love him. So he said one time in an interview, it's like putting up a little piece of paper about this big and say, if I had to draw a picture on this and the entire world had to critique it, what do you think that would go like? You're getting all kinds of feedback from stuff, but I'm at
Sure.
a point now where it's like, I don't care. I mean, you can critique my production, you can critique anything you want, but if I get my music to print, it lasts forever. If I don't, it's just stuff on my computer that's just going to sit here. So
Yeah.
doing it myself, I don't care. I mean, someone, like the last couple songs I did, people were like, oh, you look like you did it on a poor iPhone, or your camera work isn't great or whatever. And it's like, that's my next step, but I don't have the money to go out and hire people to do my music videos, because the way
Exactly.
culture is now, it's like if you don't do a video with a song, you might as well hang it up, because people aren't interested in just the song anymore. They want the whole production. It's like you got to do a movie and a song and have it correlate, and it's got to be the right way. Or so I get it. It's a long process.
I hear you, man, and that's something I completely relate to, and I think that something that I definitely need to like step in my game with is a bit more of the music video side of things. Because yeah, it definitely. I'm curious on your perspective on that. You mentioned that you think that most people aren't interested in just the songs anymore; they're more interested in songs with videos. What? Why do you say that?
Just because the way society is, I feel like just in general, if you said like just teenagers, for example, I consider them screenagers, because all they
Huh.
do is sit in front of their phone, laptop, PC, tablet, Mac, except whatever, whatever. And we're guilty of the same thing. So it's like our attention span's about seconds before something's got to change, and you go, oh, what was that? Oh, and something's got to, it's like we're so attached to that. So like just sitting and listening to a song is difficult for people who don't necessarily appreciate music. Like if you look at the song lengths right now, the radio is about 2:45, and then they're done. Like I do a song that's 3:45, people are like, whoa, that was really long. And I'm thinking to myself, what? It was hard to jam everything I needed to do and say into that time frame as it is.
I hear you.
That's people's attention span. So when they have a visual, because you think, what are you competing with? You're competing with this every day, all day. People want to see this. Like if they're into TikTok, swipe, 3 seconds, swipe, 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 swipe. So just a lyric video is okay, I guess, but just the song itself, it's just
that's a good point. Yeah, so you essentially saying you want something like constantly changing, whether it be like you said, the lyric video. That's a good point, actually. Like even if you can't start off with, say you have nothing, you don't even have an iPhone, you have a flip phone, start off with the lyric video kind of thing. That's a great point. Interesting. And then, maybe the step up from there, and I'd love to hear your perspective, but I guess the step up could be from the lyric video, could be, maybe like in what they consider audio visualizers, which is like almost like a performance video, but it's not live kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And then would be like the next would be like a music video, which that's a good point. And it definitely would keep somebody's interest even more. That's a very, very interesting point. It's something I myself need to work on for sure.
This is what it is, man. I've gotten to, it's like now I'm not dropping a song unless I do a video, and I'm not dropping a song unless I feel like it's really good, because the bar is way too high for music right now to just drop something to drop something. It's really got to be well thought out, well planned, well versed, and it has to be receptive from people, and it has to be relatable,
How do you know when enough is enough?
Yeah.
Like, how do you decide when a song is ready?
Yeah, I never, because I go back and listen to songs I've done recently. I'm like, oh, I thought this was a good decision. And then there were people who didn't, but then I had to stop worrying about it, because when your gut tells you, you'll know. When it's ready, you'll know. And you could be a perfectionist and whatever else people say, oh, you got OCD about this, that, and the other thing. But the reality is, like I said, if you put that drawing out for everybody to see, this is available to the world, right? You're talking about, what do we have in America? 329 million people or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's 7 billion in the world. I mean, it's available to anybody at a click, and it comes to your phone right there, right? So, I mean, it's got to be something that's a good representation of what you're trying to do, or else, you're opening yourself up, I guess.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like there's two sides to that coin, and it's a very interesting debate, because I feel like the other alternative to that coin is like, because there are so many people, like everybody's distinction of quality is different, which is also a very interesting thing too. Like you said, you're opening up yourself to a whole bunch of people, and it's really interesting because like you want to put out your best, but who defines what the best is? You know what I mean? Like you look at some of the top songs, and it's like I'm pretty sure 98% of my songs are better than that, but that's my personal subjective belief. But then obviously there's a lot of people that are saying the otherwise, and it's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah. It's tough, because what else hurts sometimes is like you focus on the things that aren't good, or the reviews that are maybe constructive criticism. Even that in itself gets you a little bit. It's like I think of like my last video I did, I had like X number of likes and 1 dislike. And I don't know what that's about. It doesn't matter to me, but it doesn't mean everybody's going to like my music. But
sure.
You know what I focus on sometimes every time when I open the video? The 1 dislike. Why?
Of course. Sure.
Why? Doesn't make any sense. But it's you're your own biggest critic sometimes.
Yeah. I think if so, the psychology is, I feel like it kind of relates back to like the caveman days of like the survival instinct, and we look for problems to fix the problems kind of thing, because back then if there was a problem you'd die. Now a problem is a dislike, and it's like, okay, well, we can't really control that all the time, but I think being an artist is one of the craziest biggest character building things ever. Like you just it's a smack in the face sometimes, some of these comments. I'm curious your debate on, we're talking about like quality, and putting out good music and But also, I'm curious, like, how do you draw that line of like, for a newer artist, right? So say somebody that's just starting out, likely they're not going to be the same talent that like Ed Sheeran is, right? You know, because they're just starting out, and it's an interesting debate of like where do you draw that line of like releasing something even though it probably isn't the best, but it's the best you can do at the moment, and then or do you wait, you know, okay, let me work on this song for 3 more months, you know, to make it even better.
I've heard different things on it. I've heard, I don't know, you know the band Skillet?
Yeah.
Okay, so long time ago, I took my daughter to a concert there, and we got an actual, the VIP pass or whatever. Long story
Nice.
short, got a chance to talk with them for a few minutes. And well, that was one of my questions: is what do you do? Because I've been sitting on all this music, and they said, "Man, we did this for 14 years before anybody even recognized who we were and gave us a shot." And he said it was some of the lowest quality as far as the fidelity or whatever you want to call
Mm,
it of it was low quality, but people heard the music and the message, and that's what got the ball rolling. If we would
mm,
have sat on this, it might have been 20 years before we ever got anywhere. And it's a different story with their, they have like a faith-based background, but the whole point is like if they would have sat on it and they never took a step of faith or a step outside their comfort zone, they never would have gotten where they are today. So I look at it like that. You could pick apart a lot of stuff on my music, but at the end of the day, like it's out there, it's available, the message is there. That's what my music is more centered around, is something that's relatable to people in life. So if it's supposed to be out there, it's out there. Now I'm not signed to Sony, I'm not signed to any of the so it's like it is what it is. You know what you're getting with independent artists. There's going to be a lack of something, but why hold on to it? It's like if somebody had the cure for, or what they thought might be the cure for cancer, but they weren't sure. I mean, do you just hold on to it because you're not sure if it's
that is a brilliant metaphor. That is so good, man. I love that. I'm gonna steal that metaphor, man. That is good. I like that. That's a
so
great point.
it's got to get out there, man. I've got hundreds of songs on my computer that are just chilling here, sitting, doing nothing, and I'm thinking to
Well,
myself, why?
yeah, and it really relates back to the whole, you know, the it's so music is so fascinating and so frustrating sometimes because you're like so it just sometimes it doesn't make sense because like you have those songs where like the artist releases a song that they didn't love and it ends up being their biggest hit, right? So then they're stuck playing the song that they hate the most, you know what I mean? Or you spend forever working on a song, like hours and hours and grind it out and that's okay. But then you go into a studio and like you play a song, you literally take like an hour and write and record a song, and it ends up being a huge hit. Now, huge hit for everybody is a different situation, but like some of my favorite songs from some of my favorite bands, they're like, oh yeah, we wrote that in 2 hours in the studio. Some guy had a guitar riff that he was playing for 6 months. And we were like, we got to do something with that riff finally. They did it in 2 hours. It's like, and then here I am like overthinking every single word of my song and it's like where is that line, it's like here I am so like should it be the word like he or him, you know what I mean? And they're like they wrote it in 2 hours and I love the song, and there's it's like where is that balance? It depends on the song I think, but I'd love to know your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's difficult because you know what I did one time is I took my album and I said, hey, I'm just going to give it to a bunch of people randomly from different walks of life, different backgrounds, etc. And I said, just could you rank your top four off the album? I don't, it's not going to matter what you say to me, what you like and dislike, because that's subjective. But the whole point is, I just want to see where it falls. And I'm telling you, man, the song that I thought was 3, 4 on average. So I did a spreadsheet, just gave me the data, and this is what the reality was. The song, I knew the one song that everybody picked was a good song, but it was more of like it was more faith-based, I guess. So it was like I didn't know how people would receive it. So I was kind of like, and then all of a sudden that seemed to be the one that everybody picked. But I never would have thought about that. And number 2 was a song that a guy and I that was in my band, we were sitting waiting for other people to do their takes in the studio, and we're eating pizza in the kitchen. And he's like, dun, 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 dun. I'm like, whoa, 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 dun, 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 dun. I'm like, okay, play, okay, wait, wait. And I get out the guitar, and literally 20 minutes, we had the hook, and I started writing the lyrics. And then
Yeah.
an hour later, we went in, and I'm looking at him in one booth, and he's looking at me in the other, and we laid it down. And I love that song more than any song on the whole album.
Yeah, that's another thing too, man. It's like sometimes some of your favorite songs are so easy to write, and then some of them are so hard. I guess it's the beauty of the craft. It's like you don't know what you're gonna get, that day.
Right.
It's almost like you said you're a teacher. It's almost like a student coming in at the beginning of the year. Are they gonna be a breeze? Are they gonna be a nightmare? Or are they gonna be somewhere in the middle? And every year it's different, and every song is totally different experience, and it is so fascinating. Do you prefer writing songs like that are a bit more like true story based on yourself, like reflective and experiences you've had, or do you prefer writing things that are kind of like conceptual or more like fictional?
I would say relatable. That would be the one I would say. Sometimes it is I told you I wrote that song for my son's wedding, and
Mm-hmm.
I low key wrote it for my wife too, but I wrote it for my son's wedding. But that was completely based on that. So it was like, okay, so how can I take this? Because you had mentioned Ed Sheeran, and that's funny because my goal in that song was to write the next perfect, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And what is the
I
next?
highly understand that.
Yeah, because the next perfect is the one that everybody plays at
Yeah,
their wedding.
yeah,
Now, I believe in my heart of hearts. Now, I'm humble. I don't think I'm great or good at anything, but I feel like that is a great, great, great song. Now, you take that song and let John Legend do it. I'm telling you, and this is me as the most humble person you could meet, it would blow up.
uh
But
huh,
how do you get this song to John Legend?
uh huh.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because like that for me, that's the concept was the wedding song. Everybody can dig it. Everybody can relate with it. It's something that's special. It's about that day. It would blow. But how do you get there? So in that sense, yeah, it's on a concept. But then I got then there's topics like life. I did a song called Rehab. You could flip that 15 different ways because I can pour it out in a relational sense because people can connect with the relationship aspect of it, but it also could be geared towards your over love for music in the studio and YouTube, or it could be drugs, or it could be this, or it could be this struggle or that struggle. But everybody has that thing where sometimes they pour way too much into something and expect that they're going to get a different result
Hmm.
from what they're getting. So it's like the definition of insanity.
Sure.
And I also sometimes I write music in a way that I wonder if people ever really get what I'm saying because I learned that people don't dive that deep into lyrics. Not a ton of people. Some
Mm.
do, some don't. And they just listen to the music. They say, "Oh, it's just in the background. It sounds beautiful. Oh, I put my life into that. Oh, well, it's just that's nice music." And then there's other people that listen to your stuff and they really, really try to get what you're saying. So
Yeah.
yeah, it depends, man. It depends.
It is so true, man. It is so interesting, and it's funny on both aspects. I'm more the person. Well, I do. I guess being a musician, I focus a lot on the production stuff, but I do very often focus on lyrics. And my wife is the complete opposite. She's way more interested in the music and couldn't care less if they like what the words are saying at all. And I'd be like, oh wow, look at that. She's like, I didn't even realize. So she's
Right.
like, I didn't even know that's what it was about. I'm like, well, how
Right.
did you not? She's like, I don't care. And it's very very funny. That is so interesting.
I found that out about YouTube too. I had people tell me, bro, I don't even care what you react to. I just want to watch you. And I'm like, I'm not there for you to watch me. But people say, no, I'm really there for your personality. And I'm like, I'm just there to review the music. But they
That is
don't,
a huge compliment
yeah,
for
they
you,
could
though.
care less what I'm reacting
Yeah.
to. I could be reacting to, I did a Leap Bata for a while. It's just an Indonesian guitar player. He's so you just like unbelievable. And he's just this humble guy that does it in bare feet, sitting on his stone ledge in his house, and he doesn't want to be known. He's got like 4 million subscribers. I sat there, I'm like, holy cow. But just doing that, people were like, wow, just your reaction to that. That's what I wanted to see. They didn't care about how well he could play guitar. They just wanted
Sure.
to, but
Hey, that's amazing. Then that's the end goal is for people to care about what the stuff that you're doing rather than even the stuff that you're reacting to.
uh,
Um, That blows my mind though, the concept of like, I've never even heard that guy's name that you just mentioned, and he still has 4 million subscribers on YouTube. And that,
Unbelievable, man.
what was that?
He's unbelievable.
Oh,
Like
I believe it.
you sit there and go,
I believe it. But I think it's so fascinating because we get so caught up in like, making it in the industry, right? But like, I feel like this world has become so segmented in the sense of like there are so many different avenues that people are making it, and we don't even realize. You know how much money that guy's probably making with 4 million subscribers putting up guitar videos.
he doesn't monetize. Bro.
Hypothetically, though, if he did, though, like
yeah.
Like, but we like I've never even heard his name, and he has 4 million subscribers. I would say that's pretty famous. You know what I mean? And it's just so that always blows my mind. Where it's like I'm always finding these new artists or new, whatever the case is, authors or anything like that, where they have these huge followings, but I've never heard of their name, and or, I find it very interesting. Like, for example, Instagram, you'll hear an artist, or one of the artists that inspires me a lot is this guy named Russ. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-mm.
My point exactly. Right. I think he's like in the top listing of Spotify. I would say probably top 150 on artists in Spotify. And I'll check it right now because I reference him a lot, and I should probably know this number. It's always changing, but he has 13.8 million monthly listeners. I'm sorry. Okay, he's number 317 in the world.
Oh.
Still number 317 in the world. So point being though, like he has 5 million Instagram followers, 14 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Like the guy's crushing the game. Right. And but the average person when I bring him up doesn't know his name. And not that everything relates around money, but it is such a mind-blowing concept. This guy's bringing in like, several $100,000 a month from his streaming, and the world doesn't know his name. Right. Or like he's not a household name, and it's just so fascinating. And I'd love to know your perspective on that because I want to know, what do you think is the difference between him and the Ed Sheeran, where everybody knows Ed Sheeran's name, and Ed Sheeran's only 316 more popular. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I would say. Well, let me I'll go with Ed Sheeran first. So, Ed Sheeran, when he was found, had this unique, very, very, very unique style where he could play the acoustic and rap.
Sure.
And he still held and it's funny because, not trying to stereotype, but like when generally people in the UK, they talk like, and I don't want to reference like, oh God, like they've got an accent like we do, but then when they sing, it's like they sing the way we talk.
Yeah.
But when they rap, it doesn't change.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
He's playing the guitar, and then he's putting these schemes together in this accent, and he's this little pasty, redheaded guy who's got a lot of talent and rhythm and soul, and like you listen to it and you're like, holy cow, I see why he got noticed. But it wasn't even that. It was like he got noticed for that, but then listen to his songs.
Oh, they're insane.
His songwriting ability is just it's just impeccable. So it's hard to reference because I see why he got noticed, and because he got noticed, boom, So I don't know about the Russ situation, but I look at like NF, for example. Do you know how many times I've said this to people? Do you know who NF is? And they're like, NF what? And it wasn't until recently where he really started to like get into more mainstream stuff on the radio. That was the same conversation. I say, have you heard of NF? And they're like, no, I have no idea. Now people know.
Which is interesting because NF is 316. So I think he's the one right after Russ.
Wow.
What did I say? Russ was 315, or what was Russ?
Okay, yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Russ is one behind him. Okay, so NF is 316, and then it's wild. It's wild. But still, people still don't know their names, and that's mind blowing.
I don't know how people listen to I don't know. Do you listen to the radio?
Nah, I don't listen to a ton of music outside of work though.
Right. Do you listen to, or do you watch much just TV? Just television?
No. Nope.
Yeah. See, that's the way the world's going. I don't even have a cable subscription.
Neither do I.
I never listen to the radio in the car. I just put my Bluetooth on and listen to my phone. So I think the world's going that way. So it's going to change. You look at like, do you know who Tom McDonald is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, that blows my mind. But you'll see, like, it blows my mind because he's probably the biggest independent rap artist right now in the game. He just bought Eminem produced beat for $100,000 just because he could. So he made a song called, I don't know, it was like something shady, I don't know, but it was paying homage to the fact that that was his inspiration, and he now bought a produced beat by him for whatever. But the point is, he's number one on the Billboard list, number three, number two, like all the time. Upchurch, do you know who Upchurch is?
Mm-mm.
Wow. Okay, so you got wow. The guy drops a country album. He's completely independent, number one on the country charts, and he's not signed by anyone. But that's the way the whole thing's going now. So it's encouraging to people like us.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I would agree with that. It's very encouraging. The thing that after that is it's interesting to see who, can carry that torch in the sense of like, okay, your torch gets lit, you're on fire, you're carrying it. And then like some people, they get lost in the night. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the interesting thing to see is who, does Upchurch continue to do it in 3, 4, 5 times on the charts like these huge artists do like Ed Sheeran. Obviously Ed Sheeran's like number one in the world, so like that's an insane comparison, but I'm just saying that like that's the goal, man. It's like I don't want to have this one song that just blows up and like cool, yeah, I'm super famous for a week. I don't want that. I want to be like these guys that have been around for years, the Chris Martins, like that from Coldplay's been around since like the 90s. 20 years or like, it's a Maroon 5. Like these guys have been around forever. Even like, I mean, these are some of the biggest artists I'm referencing, but even still though, like Taylor Swift's been around since like for 15, 16, 17 years already. Like that's more than half of my lifespan. You know what I mean? Like it's wild. Like these people that create careers out of their music, like that's the goal. It's not just this one off, like, because people are like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, he made $2 million from this song, like who cares if he's not famous anymore? I'm like, I would care, man. I think that would be worse than never making it at all.
Right.
It's making it once and never being able to reproduce it.
I watched a comedian, I forget his name, doesn't matter, but we went to watch him live. He's a pretty big guy, but he says he starts out his show with Purple Rain. He just starts singing it. Purple Rain. He's just boom, and everybody starts singing it. And then he goes, watch this. Gucci Man, 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 Gucci Man. Do anybody know that song? And everybody's like, okay, when was Purple Rain produced? Yeah. Everybody sang it instantly because it's timeless. We could listen to it 20 years from now and you're still going to go, man, that is a good song. Gucci, and I'm not trying to disrespect Gucci Man, but just so he blew up with Gucci Man, Gucci Man, Gucci Man, Gucci Man, Gucci Man. Do you even know that song?
I know the reference.
Right, but like, I don't even. Like, is anyone going to care 20 years from now? I mean, there's a difference. No,
and it's the debate is what is that difference? Because even with these famous artists, like. Okay, for example, like Bob Marley, I was just in Aruba, so like I heard a ton of Bob Marley, down there, and I was just kind of doing some research on him, and it's interesting, like he has like 175 songs released or something like insane like that, and it's like we still only know like 12 of them, if that, 5 of them, right. Like, and it is interesting what makes a timeless one like Three Little Birds or Redemption Song versus some other random one that like is. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting debate of what makes those timeless songs.
Yes, I feel like it's a person that's unique. If you say Bob Marley, the majority of people are going to know who you're talking about.
Sure.
If you hear the song, No Woman, No Cry, Buffalo Soul, whatever, you're going to go, oh, yeah, that's Bob Marley. If I played another song from another artist that isn't so well known, you probably wouldn't recognize it. Yeah. But the difference is if you are into that style of music, you're going to dive deeper and you're going to get to know about that kind of thing. So
it's wild though. He died like 40 years ago and his music's still being played, man. Like that is so wild.
Mm-hmm. It's timeless though.
It is. So I have a couple more questions for you, then I want to wrap it up because I want to be respectful of your time and everything. I do want to say thank you. I appreciate you coming on the chat with me. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. How are you personally, trying to distinguish yourself as an independent artist and releasing music? How are you looking to get exposure? What are you trying to do that's different or unique or?
I think for me, the first thing I had to do was become who I am, become what I was meant to be, if that makes sense. I wasn't meant to be a lead singer in a band. I wasn't meant to be a front
Mm-hmm.
guy on stage. That was a time period where I thought it was meant to be, and it was cool, but it wasn't what I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a songwriter. So for me, I have to focus on being a songwriter. And sometimes that makes you do things that are way out of your comfort zone. Like for example, like a year ago, my son came to me and he said, "I want to rap," and I'm like, "Okay," you know what I mean? Like, and he's like, "I want to rap. Like, I need to record a song." And I'm thinking, okay, here's that moment where is this good? You know, what do you say if it's not good, et cetera, et cetera. But long story short, he did it, and I was blown away. So I started supporting what he's doing. Now I've listened to rap throughout my life, but I don't ever profess to be a rapper or like practice or like sit and play an instrumental and I don't do any of that stuff. But the last song I did, it strongly suggested a rap part in the first part of it. I'm not a rapper. So what
Mm-hmm.
do I do? What do I do? I just do it. I
Yeah.
don't care. It is what it is. The whole point was I need to get that message out in a way that's relatable. And I took what some people would say I took a couple genres and fused them
Sure.
together to create the music. Now for me, I'm a songwriter. I don't know if anybody's dying to go, man, when is Peerless dropping his next track? I don't know if there may be, maybe not, but the point is the song wins. The song has to win and it has to be a true representation of what I'm supposed to be doing for me to feel comfortable. So when I push it, I'm going to push it out through Spotify, through iTunes, through family, friends, etc. But I've been doing like a lot of asking people just to react to it. If you can, you
Mm.
can. If you can't, you can't. But I just want to see people's reactions because let's say if you did it on your channel for example, all those people who had no idea who I was would at least get exposure to what I'm doing.
Sure.
And if I did that, say you have whatever amount of subscribers, if I did that, okay, 30 some people reacted to my last song. If you took all their subscribers and put them all together and say none of them overlap, whatever, that's all those people that got exposure to it if they chose to click.
Absolutely.
So that's one way. But honestly, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not even that kind of a person that I really care to be noted for anything. Like I just want to share and I want
Mm-hmm.
people to relate to it. And I want people to be able to go, man, that made a difference in my life.
Yeah.
So for me, that's more important. I could care less if they know who I am, if I'm ever compensated for. I don't care about that. It's more about sharing with what I have in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't
Absolutely. So do you prefer performing or writing?
writing.
Interesting. Do you enjoy performing?
I did. It's not my gig so much more anymore because I don't have the time to really go out.
Sure.
Like I had offers and people say, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" Yeah, I could do it for benefits and stuff like that. But it's not about me. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the music. So for me, the song wins, the music wins. How many songs have you listened to throughout your life? You have no idea who played the drums, no clue who wrote it.
99.9% of the
But
songs.
that's where I'm at. I don't care about the limelight. I don't care about that. I just want the song to get to people's hearts and ears. So.
So would like the dream goal be if you had two choices, would the goal be like peerless record like is it peerless recordings or peerless that you go by with your music?
Peerless.
Okay, so peerless is the
Yeah.
goal like for peerless to oh, I lost you for a sec. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here, bro. I'm here.
All right, I lost your video, but um
Give me one sec. Yeah, keep
yeah, you're
going. I'm
good.
listening.
All right, so you can hear me, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. So would the end goal be if you had two choices for peerless to peerless and your songs to be the next big thing, or would you like prefer that you write a song that ends up going to, like you said, John Legend or something like that, and that being the next big thing?
I feel like I have a good voice. I do. I feel like I have a gift for that, but I'm not a professional singer, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. So I feel like if you took songs I wrote and gave them to somebody who's a professional artist, musician, um, singer, whatever, I think it would be a lot more well received
Sure.
than it
Interesting.
would be if it was just me. Because to
Interesting.
me, I don't care about that stuff. So it's not.
Sure.
I'm not gonna play the part of something I really don't care about. You know, I don't care about look at my shoes, look at my pants, look at my chains, look at my watch, look at my socks. Like I don't care about any of that stuff. I just care about the music. So for
Sure.
me, the song's got to win. I would love it if John Legend did a song or if Ed Sheeran did a song or John Legend, it would so much more reach so many more people, and that's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's such an interesting, conversation, and I want to say thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. There's a lot of insight. I think that for people that first of all made it this far in the interview, I want to say first of all thank you to them because they rock. They're I say that in every one of my interviews because it's true. Like these interviews end up being somewhere between 45 to an hour long, and if they make it all the way at the end of this, they're the true ones. But it's true, and I want to personally thank for people that watch your channel. I want to thank them for listening to your music, and thank people for listening to mine because that's like the best way to support our craft, and it's an honor that people actually do. So I want to thank you for being on the channel. If you could just hang out for 2 seconds. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate all you guys. I got a whole bunch of interviews coming up, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for the Peerless Recordings for coming on this channel. It was a pleasure. I'll see you guys